Hello. Welcome to our Yoga for the Creative Soul book club. Thank you, Florage. I'm on the move, so I don't have my book with me today. I'm in snowy Manitoba. The blizzard just started. And today, as we carry forth through chapter 6, connecting to our creative selves through the path of purpose, we're talking about acceptance today. And if you've read Yoga Therapy for Stress and Anxiety, you know that when we're thinking of our service in the world or our karma yoga, that we'll sometimes follow a four-prong model, and that is to accept the task at hand, to give it our complete attention, to concentrate, to do our very best in whatever that is, and then to let go of the end results because we can't control them anyway. What we can control is our state of mind and our best efforts. So today we're looking a little bit at just that first aspect of it, the acceptance piece, and what here we go, and what does acceptance mean as an aspect of our creative journey. So thinking of acceptance as releasing resistance, right? It's very common for us when, especially if we're facing something that we might not want to do, we might tend to procrastinate, even if it's a positive thing, let alone things that we don't want to have in our lives. We push back against it. We wish it were different. We have certain thoughts and feelings about that thing. So, what we can play with right off the bat here together is to settle into a breathing technique where we're just watching the breath. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing right now, just pause, close your eyes if that feels okay. You're just gonna look down to begin to heighten the calm of the nervous system and watch the breath flow. And as you're watching this movement of the breath, not trying to make it anything different, if you wish, you can give it more space so that the inhales and exhales can elongate or deepen. You're not imposing anything upon this breath. And as you watch the breath and as you create space for the breath, notice the places that are easy to breathe into, that are accepting of the breath, or that seem to take that automatic function and enjoy it. And notice the places that may be carrying a bit more resistance, that might be more difficult to breathe into, that don't want to stretch, that can't quite get enough air. And we're not trying to change that. We're just observing. Where and how is this breath easy? Where and how is this breath resisting? And I'm a big advocate of not looking for trouble. So if you're not finding places that are tight or can't quite inflate or let go, that's okay. Just enjoy that as well. Witnessing the breath, appreciating the ease, noticing where there may be more room for acceptance. And anywhere we meet resistance in life, you're welcome to continue with the breathing practice, or maybe even adding some gentle stretching or movement as I speak here. Releasing resistance is allowing what is to be, allowing what is to be, because what is outside of our agency is. This is what the karma has brought. This is the condition of the world. These are the choices that others are making. This is what the cells are doing. And we can offer some agency to that. Like, it's not just like, oh, well, my breath is shallow. It is what it is. No, I think there's an opportunity for agency there. We can deepen the breath. But there are many circumstances in life, feelings, motivations that simply are. And when we release resistance, they have more space to be. And I'm sure many of you have heard it said that what we resist persists. So there's something about holding things tightly, not wanting them to be this way, which is actually a tightened fist. Whereas, oh, this is what I'm looking at right now. This is what I'm facing. Opens the hand, and that thing, at the very least, changes shape, if not goes away completely. So one of the ways that we can also release resistance is just giving ourselves that perspective shift, not clinging so tightly to wanting it to be different, but just saying, okay, this is what I'm facing right now, and I can relax into that. That perspective shift is an aspect of acceptance. And then if we link it into last week when we were talking about sacred purpose, the karmas of our soul's journey, what comes to us in life, and perceiving any of the things that we face or any of the callings that arise within or around us, perceiving those as a sacred duty reconnects us to the true self, the creative self. And in that place, when we are fully connected to ourselves as a whole being, our thoughts and feelings, our body, our energies, our beliefs, and what we hold dear, as well as the soul, when all of that integrates more and more, there is less and less space for resistance, because in that way of being and in that perspective, we are able once again to step into, okay, this is who I am. This is my opportunity here. And I say it in simple terms, but let us also acknowledge that's not an easy thing. It's simple, it's easily stated, but to apply the practice is a practice. One of my mentors says constant vigilance, right? To always monitor ourselves and do our best to stay connected to that soul self. And if you've shifted away from the breathing practice, I'd ask that you actually just check in with your breath again as we talk about that idea of releasing resistance and connecting to sacred purpose and dharma. What happens with your breath in that moment? What happens to your felt sense, your embodiment of that idea? And there's no right or wrong there. It's just a witnessing. The more we practice witnessing, what some might call mindfulness, the more we're invoking acceptance as well, because we're watching what is without needing to change it or even take action upon it in the moment. Sometimes it's just about pausing and going, okay, that's a thing, and acknowledging it. But it is not resigning to it. It is what it is. Oh, well. Um, Sometimes we kind of have to do that, but much of the time, um, we're not falling into resignation, but we're carrying ourselves in a different direction, hopefully inwards or to connection with the soul. We're carrying ourselves into purposefulness, not resigning to it. We are invoking the purpose of it. And acceptance kind of cleans the window so we can see a little more clearly what is really going on. We're not looking through the cloud of attachment. We talked about those kleshas over the previous 5 chapters in part 1 of the book, and they taught us about when we're not in acceptance, where we're facing those obstacles or that smudged and dirty window. Acceptance cleans the glass so we can see more of what's really going on there. It's not an easy way out. Thinking of the practice that we're discussing today, you can see it is a commitment, it is a dedication, it is an action. Inner action, maybe most of the time, just something that we're doing, saying, feeling within ourselves, but an action, a dedication, a practice nonetheless. So if we take this idea of acceptance then and we put it into connecting with the creative self, this is where we're going to come into our expressive arts today. And so just in whatever way feels okay or makes sense to you, I'd ask that you in some way express yourself, an avatar of yourself in a dance, or a character of yourself in a scene or in a drawing. Draw some representation of yourself in the center of the page, and then express who is that self when resistance is at play. What happens to the self when the kleshas or the obstacles are active? What is it like when acceptance is not tempering the moment? Expressing self, expressing absence, acceptance. Yes, and I'll give you a moment to do that. I myself will grab my creative implement, such as it is here and now, and this is just part one of this expressive modality. Part one of this expressive modality is yourself, and yourself facing not acceptance. Pardon the vacation mess all over the floor there. All right. So just another moment or two to play that out. And then let's make it a little more specific. What is the not acceptance like when the resistance is coming, is pushing against your creative impulses? In some way, express or depict the way resistance appears when you're feeling called to some form of creative act. This can be practicing your instrument, doing your drawing or your writing, your daily writing practice. This can be creating a meal for yourself or creating an organized home. Whatever you're defining as creativity for the purpose of this practice, express the resistance that occurs in relation to your creative self. And whenever possible, as we do these expressive arts activities, check in with your breath. Notice the thoughts and feelings that are moving through you as you're expressing. In Yoga for the Creative Soul, we are defining the creative soul as the true self. We are of creation, therefore we are creative. How we are creative is different for every person. So if that also informs the way you're expressing this, that idea of the true self calling out for expression needs to go into your expressive activity, make sure that part of you is somehow included here. And remember that idea of connecting to the true self, expressing what's true within us, living in alignment with our creative souls is part of our sacred duty. So, beginning perhaps not only to depict self and obstacles and what is at play when it is a call to creativity, but also expressing what's on the other side, in some way expressing what is the creative soul calling out for, what is on the other side of the resistance, what are the gems, what are the treasures, what are the benefits, depicting that metaphorical treasure of your creative act. And there in Yoga for the Creative Soul, in those early pages of chapter 6, I give examples of how our creative self might be calling out for, I saw this sunset and I want to depict it, or this collection of images, I want to piece them together and feel that joy and inspiration of it. But let's remember, especially as we're gathering here together to follow the path of yoga and creativity as an aspect of our mental health, our trauma recovery, that sometimes what wants to be expressed is kind of dark, right? Like the darker places, the pain that we've carried for a long time, the slime and the wounds that are beyond words are some of what are calling out for expression. And if that's the case, no wonder there's resistance there as well, because resistance isn't pure resistance. We talked about this in chapter 2. Resistance is also self-protective. Resistance exists for a reason. And how can acceptance soothe that resistance? Not sure, but if it can fit in your depiction, note in what way can I be safe expressing or releasing the pain of darkness while still staying connected to my creative self. Noticing your breath as you depict these things, letting any tension that's arising come through you into the dance or the music or the drawing or the writing, so that it is not just surfacing, not just coming up, but coming up and coming out. what was carried inside of us in our emotional bodies, in our nervous systems, in our energy fields, moves into the creative act. So it comes through us and out of us. And on the inside, we are transformed. It's not easy to practice. It's not easy to express. But this transformative process leaves us cleansed and more connected. So sometimes we'll have it in us to do that. And sometimes we'll need to rest instead. And it is that commitment to acceptance that supports us oftentimes in knowing the difference. So I invite and encourage you to spend as much time as you need to with that practice, coming back to it as often as you need to. Rewatch the video if that helps you. Keep the expressive practice vital. You can change media anytime, whether that's going from markers to pencils or dance to sound, or however you might want to do that. And just I'd like to weigh in so that those who are less able to express in the way they want to, or say, I'm not very creative, I'm not an artist, that I can be in there showing you, yeah, well, it's more about the act, isn't it, than the final product. That's what expressive arts is all about. But I drew myself as a little stick figure. You can't even see it anymore, but it was in the middle of a little circle. And those little circles, if you can see them, represent the koshas, the layers of being. And then when I thought about the obstacles or the resistance, there was a lot of thoughts, a lot of like thinking, commentary maybe, and also I felt in my body a sense that the solar plexus, which is where our identity and purpose tends to live, dharma, even karma, a little bit of karma there at that solar plexus, dharma for sure though. So I drew a line through my center. That was a bit of the sense of what was going on at my solar plexus. But then what is there if I do express? Well, there's treasures that just symbolically I put diamonds, the prize, and also the stars, being connected in the cosmos and to possibility, to the divine in infinite space. The creative acts really do come through all of that. And then how can I be safe and face the resistance and live in acceptance? I drew a little heart around myself. So that's the way it came out of me. How it comes out of you is yours, all yours. That's some of the greatness of all of this, is that you get to be and express however you want. Please do share it to the group. We learn so much from one another. And when you share what's going on with you, we hold you in our thoughts and in our intentions and in our well wishes as well. So if you're watching the video after the fact, please participate with us in the group. And we'll be back next Wednesday at 12:30 Eastern. So thank you so much for being here, so much for playing along, and thank you so much for taking care of yourself by following this path of yoga and expressive arts and tending to your health on all levels as we continue to recover together as humans and as a system. Thank you, everybody. Take care.